And welcome guys to another little video on our tutorial series. Now today's tutorial series is going to be a little bit of Crosshairs. This is going to be the first part of it because I want to add several things to it and a lot of other stuff. And two, it's also going to link into our tower defense series because it's always going to have to deal with raycasting and working with certain things. Now, today's is going to be about crosshairs. Crosshairs can be done in many forms, but mostly all it is the center of the screen, and people need to know how to shoot. And there's a few ways that you can do it. Let's bring our main screen up. A is real simple. Let's get this panel out of the way. And let's go into 2D mode right here. You could, by rights, in the small little thing, go and take this image and shrink it down to something reasonable like 0.1, 0.1. And you would get a little tiny crosshair, little dot on the middle of your screen. It's probably really hard. Oh, yeah, that's right. I gotta have this on. We put our gun in, and look, you got a little dot in the center of the screen, and it's not really that great. Now it's probably really hard to see. It's right there. Okay? Basically, right there. And there's a few games that do this, but it kind of sucks because, well, it just kind of sucks. Who wants a crosshair that doesn't do absolutely anything? Okay? Z factor on the scaling never. It doesn't care. Okay? All it is an image. You just put it in, and that's it. And have it right here on the old center. But you know me. I have a tendency of over-engineering and doing a lot of other stuff that probably you shouldn't follow me on. But hey, if you don't experiment or something, you'll never know what you can do. You got to push what comes to mind. So today, I went and decided I wanted to do some crosshair stuff. Now, this crosshair functionality isn't working and everything else is disabled right now. Now, this is purposely done. Okay? Now, if we go into our weapon, it brings up our crosshair. Okay, I got this big old image right here. I know it's ugly looking, but that's all it's supposed to do. And I know I got this debug log thing here, but there's a purpose for it. Okay, now, as I was saying, there's a purpose. We're shooting the ground. Okay, this is one. Now we're shooting away all the time to here. So if I wanted to, I could swap out this image for, let's say, hey, I'm on a building, it's a friendly building, and I'm not supposed to shoot it, or we can make this turn blue if we really wanted to. If we are not, if everything's A-okay, then we can have it do a different change. So we do have the ability to change between all of them. And the only reason this is a little laggy is because all these freaking debug logs, which are annoying. So let me disable these real quick, because you know the functionality is there. Okay, now it will do this thing, and we get rid of them logs, because it's lagging me, man. Anytime you do a bunch of logs, like every frame and stuff, it's laggy. Plus, I have the settings set up a little high for recording because it's supposed to hit other things. Now, as you can see, I'm still getting pretty decent frames, 90, that's fine. And I'm still getting roughly about the same thing. I mean, they've went down a little, but, they stayed pretty relative. I mean, I can still shoot and all that good stuff. But notice how my crosshair now disappears and then reappears. That's because it's in an update function for itself. It's not pushing the icon every single frame to the image right here. It's checking a property that's inside the Crosshair Manager and comparing it and then setting it. Okay? Very, very different. You do not want to sit there and have the UI update every single frame if it does not need to. Very performance heavy. Don't know why, but it smashes FPS frames. So let's take us a look at how this is all set up. Just a simple image on a Crosshair Manager. It's on, so that's all cool. And we are going to delete this. Reapply the prefab stuff because this is okay. And that's all it is. That's really all it is right there. So setting it up in the scripting is probably even just as easy. I tried to make it as simple as possible. Okay. Alright. So here's the Crosshair Manager, okay, which is also part of Weapon Component. Now, Weapon Component, all I did was add a protected static Crosshair Manager variable to this. So we'll always have a variable across the board to everything. Once this is set, I don't have to set this ever again. Okay? So that's the reason why the Crosshair Manager script is on the UI side. So when the level loads, it'll fire up, it'll set what it needs to, and then the weapons have access to everything that it needs to for setting the property on the UI. Now we've got a protected variable right here of the sprite. Okay, and now we got a property, a get and set. Okay, the get just returns this. Okay, so the set does value does not equal icon. It goes icon, which is this one, equals value, and then it goes image.sprite, which is the UI image component for the UI, equals value. So anytime this doesn't equal the value, it's going to just shoot it to it, right? So the start method, it fills in the crosshair, no problem. If the sprite is null, then it just disables it, okay, in the start. So if I wanted a default crosshair, all I have to do is fill in the sprite. It's not going to change anything. I don't have to change any code or anything like that. And then set sprite. We ask for a sprite in the overloads, or whatever parameters or whatever you want to call them. Each person has their own thing. I call it a variable. We pass in a variable. Sprite equals this right here. So this ends up changing, but we're doing the property version of it. So whenever these change up and they don't equal the same thing, it'll run the icon. And this is a key component in here, because if they equal the same thing, it's not going to shoot a variable into the UI. Okay? If image.sprite equals null, it disables it. So even if I'm doing this every single frame, it gets the property, and then actually it would be fine probably, wouldn't it? But it just disables and enables the image that's there. If there's no sprite, like if we pass a null, it will just disable the image and do nothing, which is perfectly fine by me. I like it that way. And then if there is a sprite that's passed in right here, like if we don't pass in null, it will enable it and do all the updates that it needs to. But this property right here has to be filled in first. This does what needs to be done. See, it passes in the stuff, and then it goes, hey, sprite, did you just change? And it goes, well, yeah, I did. So I'm not null anymore. Bam. Now, when it came to the ray, now remember when I was in my weapons class right here. Weapons, I told you this right here had to exist. Okay, and then we had to fill in information here. Okay, so in turn, when we were doing fixed update, we were doing a ray mask, which is a ray cast that goes to a function that we have and does all the work. But it passes us the ray back. Well, in this function, we pass it the ray itself. And then we don't need anything back. That's why it's a void instead of a raycast hit here. Okay? Because we don't have to return any information here. We just need to pass it to it, let this function do what it needs to do, and booyah, done. So we pass it in here all the time. It doesn't matter if hit actually hits something or just hits dead space, because when we pass the variable in, the first thing we do is check if it has a hit.transform. If it doesn't have a hit transform, no code is executed on this particular thing. In this instance over here, if there's no hit transform, it doesn't execute code at all either. So it's a very good thing to do. And I'm going to tell you something. Don't go into hit transform.tag before you do anything, because it's more of hit.transform always exists in the hit variable. Okay, the hit transform.tag, if you don't hit anything, it doesn't exist. Then it throws you an error on the raycast. Okay, and the prime example of that and everything else, I'll show you. Okay, is we'll exit out of this. Okay. Alright, and this will give us more than enough of an example right here. See, we do a string, and then we're trying to get the property of hit.transform.tag. Okay? Now we'll go into Unity, and we'll see what happens with this. So every single time the ray goes out on that particular function, it's going to compare tags. So we're going to see, we should see our program explode, like many errors. Okay, we've got, now I pull out the weapon, we should have problems. Look, see, null reference. Object reference not sent to an instance of an object. Soon as I don't have any rays whatsoever, and literally this will not run. I mean, it runs for a split second, and then, but watch what happens when I take the weapon, transform, and manipulate it down so it gets a thing. Okay, we'll clear this and watch. It'll run for a microsecond. Okay, so what I need to do is get this to stop lerping my position upward. And it doesn't want to listen. What is the button for play? Control plus P. Okay, so Control P. That's awesome. Okay, so we'll go into this. We've got this, and boom. See? It runs. I'm hitting something, it runs. But as soon as I don't, it's going to explode. So I'm hitting something. No. Bam. This is why hit transform is better than hit.transform.tag. Now, you might be wondering why this does this. Well, it has to do with how Unity is translating the tag. Okay, once you hit something and it looks at what the properties all are, it's going to go, hey, you need this type of component. So it parses out that information that it's got tags, it's got hit transforms, and it does everything it needs to, right? It's just like our weapon component doesn't have any raycast or anything like that. So when I try to hit raycast with just the weapon component itself, it doesn't do anything. It would error out because the code doesn't exist. But when we do our weapon test, which is our script on our weapon, it has those functions. It has things, right? And that's what it ultimately it does. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. But like I said, compare the transform first, okay, and then you can do everything else that you need as long as the information works. That little check isn't going to hurt your program, okay? Yeah, you're like, oh, it's a comparison, why am I doing it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, it'll work. It'll work just fine and everything else. Just like right here, if you're thinking, well, what happens when I put a tag that doesn't exist in here? Well, it automatically does the default behavior. I can have another case in here easy. Case dead weight. Doesn't care. Okay? Because if my hit transform even hits dead weight, it'll do this. If it doesn't have it in the table, like a case for it, it'll go default. Okay? Basically, it goes, well, no matter what, I'm going to do this. If you don't give me an answer, I'm going to give you an answer. Okay? And that's how it works ultimately. Okay? So, I'm just going to drop out right here, say peace out everybody, thanks for watching, and see you next time in the next tutorial.